say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rolled upon spurs stinging earth, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner highest wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
We're going to grow more in the next 30 years than we have in the last 75. As this growth comes, it requires us to think differently about the future in the way that we build, the way that we develop, the way that we invest in infrastructure and getting people around our city.
Ultimately, the goal of everybody is like economic, social prosperity. We have to think and make decisions not about the city based on what it is today. We're making decisions right now that have to address the growth of what the city will be in 2030. For many people, there's an opportunity gap that we could capitalize on right now to catch up and even pass some of our peer cities or peer regions.
Lincus is about very purposely planning the growth so that it doesn't just happen like on the outskirts of Columbus or in certain areas over others, and that when new people and new opportunities come here, like everyone can take advantage of it in an equitable way.
Voters overwhelmingly supported this ballot issue last fall.
We're planning to bring 45% more COTA service to the region, connecting us all with more than 500 miles of sidewalks, bikeways, and trails. And it will create hundreds of thousands of opportunities for those who live and work here.
Every time I need to go to a doctor, the library, COTA links me to dignified travel. It affords me the opportunity to have a safe experience geared for my handicapped needs.
We're not just interested in getting bigger, we want to get better. We've done an incredible job as a region of creating jobs, putting many of our neighbors to work. We haven't built enough housing to keep up. That's why rents and home prices are growing faster than people's incomes. Zone In is really our path forward. How do we make sure that the growth of this community is dynamic and inclusive?
Up until last July, we did have a very antiquated code. It was one that had not been comprehensively revisited for more than 70 years. And as we think about where we were as a city more than 70 years ago, we had far fewer number of people that were in our community. We had a different set of values, and we were facing a different set of challenges.
The previous zoning code in this city and cities around the country were the next iteration of redlining. They were tools used by folks to keep certain people out and to keep neighborhoods segregated and divided.
We are maximizing the land that we have in our community so that there's not only enough houses, but there's enough houses that meet the needs of our families.
We believe this is the blueprint for that dynamic and inclusive growth that's going to continue to welcome more and more families. And that's why these two things, Link Us and Zone In, are so critically important.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Columbus Mayor Andrew J. Ginther.
Good evening, friends and neighbors. What a great night here in our city to celebrate so many wonderful things happening. How lucky are we that this time in our city's history, we get to lead and shape the future of this incredible place. I'm so grateful to be here with you tonight, standing shoulder to shoulder at this critical moment for our community and our future. I want to thank everyone who opened things up this evening, including the amazing students of Fort Hays. Let's give it up. As well as Fort Hays Principal Dr. Milton Ruffin, Superintendent Dr. Angela Chapman, and the members of the Columbus City School Board for hosting us here tonight. Thank you all for being such great and gracious hosts. I also want to recognize the elected officials who are joining us. Would you raise your hand and stand up so we can recognize council members, county prosecutor? I know we have state legislators here as well. Thank you all for being here. Senator Craig, Clerk O'Shaughnessy, some of the judges. Thank you so much for your leadership and your partnership. And then there's my wife, Shannon. So we will celebrate 24 years of marriage on April 28th. It has been an incredible journey, and I'm grateful to her every day for being my partner. And our daughter would be here, but I know you'll be shocked to learn that she's playing volleyball and told me that she was much more interested in that than coming to my State of the City speech. To my Chief of Staff, Elon Sims, thank you for all of your incredible work. There he is. Thank you, Elon. And our incredible cabinet, thank you all for your incredible work and service and leadership at the city. Neighbors, the state of our city is strong. Thanks to community collaboration, it is more vigorous than ever. An intentional use of our resources and a commitment to harnessing our region's success to benefit everyone. We're driving change across our community's top priorities: housing, safety, mobility, and prosperity for our residents. But our momentum can only be sustained and accelerated if we continue to work together to make our city even better. I'm so excited tonight because I know we share a vision for the future that is both impactful and inclusive, one that supports each of our neighbors and lifts up every corner of Columbus. For progress to be transformative, it cannot be achieved alone or on behalf of a select few. It is only through broad and sweeping collaboration across neighborhoods, across generations, and across a diverse range of backgrounds and experiences that we will carry forward the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of every Columbus resident. This is what it means to engage through an equity lens. And that is why this work must and will continue. So much is on the line, but there's still more to do. But know this, we will not simply accept outcomes and events as they unfold around us, deferring to chance, trends, and the actions or inaction of others. In the city of Columbus, we know who we are, what we believe in, what our values are, what we aspire to be, and what we are striving to become.
Our fate is our own, and this will never change, despite the discord and dissonance coming from our nation's capital. The next chapter of our city's story will be written by us to ensure that every resident has access to housing they can afford, jobs that promote upward mobility, safe and vibrant neighborhoods, and sustainable, reliable transit that gets them to the people and places they need to lead happy, healthy, and fulfilling lives. We have the power to elevate the quality of life for everyone in this community, especially those who have historically been left out and left behind. We are charting our collective course right here and right now. And as we do, we will see to it that Columbus is a city that embraces its diversity and its differences. After all, true prosperity is rooted in including and empowering others, growing the winner's circle, shared prosperity. This is all about making the necessities of life available to all. Together, we will seize the present to secure our future. Neighbors, it's no secret that housing is one of the greatest challenges of the present moment. It's because Columbus is growing at an extraordinary rate. And with that growth comes extraordinary responsibility. Over the next decade, we need to build 200,000 housing units across our region just to meet demand. And we need more housing of every type. However, this is not simply about the numbers. It's about creating opportunities for families, fostering equity, and building a city where everyone is able to thrive. That is why this work is so important. And that is why we are so encouraged by some of our recent progress. Last year, our city saw a remarkable increase in residential construction permits, up 14% compared to 2023. This expansion is expected to create more than 6,000 new housing units in our city, a welcoming indicator that we're headed in the right direction. But we need to move faster, bigger, and with a sense of urgency. Thanks to the city's Zone In initiative, the hard work of our staff at Building and Zoning Services Department, we've cut timelines in half for rezonings and building variances, getting new housing projects off the ground faster in an industry where time is money. This is a huge win for our city, but especially for families who need a home right now, but are being priced or pushed out by a competitive housing market. That is why affordable housing is a central pillar of the Columbus housing strategy. And the voter-approved housing bonds that we passed in 2019 and 2022 have been particularly impactful. So far, our dollars have supported the construction of more than 4,000 new income-qualified affordable rental units, including 633 permanent supportive housing units, which are vital for individuals who have experienced homelessness and need extra support to stay housed. And while it's clear that this dedicated funding stream has kicked our work into high gear, the need in our community is still great. Tonight, I'm announcing that I will be asking Council to place a third Columbus affordable housing bond on the November ballot. I'm asking the residents of Columbus to stand up and support our efforts and support a bond issue of the largest investment towards housing in the city's history, $500 million. we can keep this important progress going and build thousands of additional homes, all without raising your taxes. My bond package proposal will also include investments in fire stations and police substations, vehicles and equipment that keep our city running, parks and trails, roadway resurfacing, water and power infrastructure, and so much more. I'll be announcing with Council the full details of this bond package next month. But affordable housing bonds aren't the only tool in our toolbox that we're using to create the housing we need. We'll also expanded the city's housing tax incentive program to include all Columbus neighborhoods. Since 2019, this program has enabled the construction of nearly 14,500 new housing units, including 2,500 affordable housing units. Incredibly important gains for this community. But with our housing shortage now at a crisis level, we're redoubling our efforts to protect our residents who are being squeezed the most by this competitive housing market. That is why the Building and Zoning Services Department will soon introduce a registry of vacant and foreclosed properties. Thanks to the advocacy of neighborhood and community leaders, some I'm sure are here tonight, and the support and leadership of Columbus City Council, we'll know exactly who is responsible for maintaining uninhabited properties in your neighborhood, and who we can hold accountable if a property falls into disrepair in order to protect the safety and quality of life. This registry will go online by June 1st of this year. BZS is also managing a new registry of property wholesalers, who are often referred to as flippers, to ensure ethical, transparent, and responsible transactions when it comes to residential property wholesaling. An increasingly common practice we're seeing throughout Columbus and across the nation. But this work also requires that the city step in and take decisive action where others so often fail or refuse to do so. To that end, we created the city's new Relocation Assistance Code, which is there to help renters who are forced to move out of their homes, often at a moment's notice and due to no fault of their own, like when a boiler blows, knocks out heat to the building. Now, Columbus landlords are required to cover relocation costs for tenants displaced by emergency vacate orders. Placing responsibility where it belongs and easing the financial burden of our neighbors who might otherwise struggle to secure housing on such short notice. Our goal is to keep our neighbors in their homes, to help them navigate crises in their lives and prevent them from falling deeper into housing instability. This summer, the City of Columbus will launch the Division of Housing Stability, a dedicated team focused on expanding our efforts to keep residents stably housed and ensure the long-term prosperity and well-being of this community. This expansion of the Department of Development will serve to prevent evictions, improve housing quality, and ensure fair treatment for renters. We'll employ a fair housing coordinator to protect renters from exploitation, advance our homelessness prevention programs, streamline our efforts to bolster tenants' rights, and guarantee access to legal counsel at eviction court for low-income households with minors. Bringing this work to Columbus is a giant leap forward for this community, but we cannot ignore the bigger picture if we're truly going to address the rising cost of housing and create a region where everyone who wants to work in Central Ohio can afford to live here too. Creating new jobs and bringing workers to our region is a wonderful thing. But if we're growing our workforce without also building the housing we need to accommodate these folks, we risk worsening our regional housing crisis and driving housing costs even higher. Consider the numbers. From 2010 to 2020, our region built one new home for every 2.5 jobs that we created. In order to accommodate the growth we're experiencing and expect to continue, we need to be building at least one house for every new job our region creates, a 1-to-1 ratio. In Columbus, we're certainly doing our fair share, and then some. Remember those 200,000 housing units that need to be built within the next 10 years? I'm committing Columbus to bringing 100,000 of them to the market, half of the region's housing demand. As you saw a few moments ago, last year's zoning code reforms unlocked the potential for the market to create an additional 88,000 housing units along key Columbus corridors and transit corridors over the next decade. It's a good start, but let me be clear. As much as we've accomplished, we cannot solve this regional problem alone. Columbus is just one part of a growing and dynamic region, and we need regional action to overcome this challenge. I'm pleased to share that right now, as we speak, the Central Ohio Regional Housing Coalition is convening hundreds of local government, business, academic, and nonprofit leaders who will see to it that Central Ohio is an affordable place to live in the future. The coalition will be incubated at the Columbus Partnership, and I want to thank their new CEO, Jason Hall, for spearheading this effort. It's going to be funded by both public and private dollars, leveraging our regionalism to our mutual advantage. It's just like when Columbus 2020 was founded to create 150,000 new jobs in 10 years. But this time, we're forming a new organization that will focus on building 200,000 homes in the next decade. By enlisting the business community, nonprofits, and neighboring municipalities and jurisdictions to this very important cause, we'll build the housing we need and improve housing stability for everyone in Central Ohio. Let's hear more from the incredible partners who are at the table.
Those of us in the housing space have known for several years. Those of us in the housing space have known for several years that we were facing a housing crisis. What we know is that Intel is coming to Licking County. We know that Honda is expanding in Union County. And I give those two examples because they are in Central Ohio, but not necessarily in Franklin County. We need to look at this issue the same way that we look at jobs, as a regional housing issue.
Columbus is the fastest growing major metropolitan region in the Midwest. With that, we've got to build more houses because more people are choosing Columbus. The crisis is if we don't get this housing built, we're going to fall behind and increase the burden on families in our city and throughout our region.
We know that companies come to a region where, one, there's a workforce, and two, that workforce can afford to live. We will not remain economically competitive if we do not address our housing issue. When you think about the human consequences, it's even more daunting. For example, let's assume Mary. Mary is the mother of 2 children. She's housing burdened, which means she's paying more than 50% of her income for housing. What happens when a car repair is needed or when a child is sick? We need all of us at the table.
Fairfield County is growing. We're in a strong financial position, but we don't have enough money to buy our way out of this problem. We have to come up with better solutions. So we need to work with our planning commissions and our townships and our villages and our cities to get them to understand that growth is not a bad thing. Growth is a good thing. And when it's planned for appropriately and managed positively, and we put the taxing projects in place, new community authorities and CEDAs, and we work cooperatively between the townships and the villages and the schools, that everybody can win.
We're addressing housing as a region, and not just a municipality or not just a county, but all of us together. So what does success look like? It looks like us staying together and all of us rowing in the same direction to address this crisis.
Well, in Hilliard, we're serious about offering a variety of housing options to accommodate our diverse community. We're preparing to offer housing options for all ages and income levels. As we move forward with our plans, we will be looking for collaborations that work for everyone.
Housing is important to Reynoldsburg because we want to offer something for everyone, no matter what stage of life they're in, whether there are brand new families, whether they're seniors that are getting to downsize. We want to make sure that they have choices so they can stay in our community. Well, Regional Housing Coalition is actually a benefit for everyone because while Columbus is doing their part, and certainly Reynoldsburg is, it's going to take all of us to address the issues that confront every person in our community, especially with the amount of jobs coming into our region.
The Regional Housing Coalition is so important because we're already so interconnected. We have all these different multimodal transportation options. We want to be able to lean into our public transportation Link Us initiative. We want to be able to stay connected so people can live, work, and play throughout the region, but hopefully live here in Worthington too.
Housing is the foundation of any strong community. As Delaware continues to grow, we need a range of housing to keep people in Delaware. Whether it's families, whether it's professionals or seniors, we want to make sure that there's a quality of life for all.
Affordability is critical. We've got to make housing available at all price points, of all types. Look, we all need to be advocates for the future of this region. No one person, no one group, no one elected official can solve problems of this scale. It requires everybody stepping up and saying, this is the kind of city we're going to be, and this is where we're going, and hold people accountable to put away selfish interests and put that bigger, broader Columbus interest at the center and say we're going to do this together.
Investing in stable housing is critical to making Columbus residents safer and more secure. And safety, as we all know, is the cornerstone of thriving, prosperous neighborhoods. Very proud to report that in 2024, we continued to make significant strides in reducing violent crime and strengthening community safety across our city. Homicides dropped by 17%. Felonious assaults were down 25%. The amazing women and men of the Columbus Division of Police achieved a homicide solve rate of 76%. And we continued to recover dangerous guns from the streets of our city because of reckless and hapless gun policy at the state and federal level. Just over 3,200 guns just last year taken off the streets of Columbus. I'm going to ask Chief Elaine Bryant to stand up so we can recognize her and the Division of Police for their amazing work in keeping us all safe. And she just hasn't stopped. This year's off to a remarkable start. In the first quarter of 2025, homicides were down 37% over the progress we saw in 2024. And felonious assaults were down another 15%. As of this morning, there have been 14 homicides in the city of Columbus in 2025. Let me be clear, one homicide is too many. But this is the lowest number of homicides we've seen in our city in 2 decades. Like so many of our pressing endeavors, this success is rooted in trust and collaboration. Historic levels of public engagement have empowered our law enforcement officers to act swiftly and effectively. These stronger connections between our officers and the neighbors they serve have fostered a shared sense of responsibility for our community's safety. Great partners like the Mothers of Murdered Children Columbus that are here tonight that have been incredible partners for us. So tonight I'm asking all of you, let's keep this positive progress going. Let's collaborate with the women and men of the Division of Police and with our neighbors. Let's engage and empower our youth as we head into these summer months. Let's stay vigilant in our efforts to protect one another. We'll continue to do our part by implementing our comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy. Each neighborhood faces unique challenges, and this safety strategy addresses these complexities with considerable forethought, precision, and care. By embracing a holistic approach that blends prevention, intervention, and enforcement, we are better positioned to disrupt the cycle of violence from multiple angles and keep Columbus families safe. There's one example. One example I'd like to share with you tonight, we launched just a few weeks ago. We introduced the Clean and Safe Corridor Initiative, a strategic effort to improve safety, fuel economic prosperity, and promote quality of life along key business corridors where there's a clear and quantifiable need for focused, proactive intervention. We launched the program on Parsons Avenue, partnering with businesses like Bake Me Happy and the Southside Thrive Collaborative to identify the most impactful city services and investments we could bring to the corridor. Over a span of 2 weeks, Columbus crews filled potholes, picked up trash, addressed specific safety issues, inspected local businesses, identified and monitored code violations, and a range of services from multiple city departments, valued at more than $164,000 in labor and infrastructure. We also awarded a $165,000 grant from the city's budget to the Southside Thrive Collaborative to sustain safety and cleanliness efforts throughout the neighborhood. And we'll devote dollars from our capital budget next month to help with infrastructure, cameras, lighting, and other improvements the community needs and is asking for. But we're just getting started. I'm pleased to share that the next 3 corridors where we'll be implementing this program are Sullivan Avenue on the Hilltop, Livingston Avenue in Driving Park, and along North High Street through the Short North. Over the coming weeks, we'll bring this strike force of city resources to each of these neighborhoods to enhance safety, cleanliness, and quality of life along these vibrant commercial corridors. But these communities aren't the only places where we're investing in infrastructure and safety improvements. Soon, our streetlights will be as bright as the city's future when the division of power begins transforming the city's aging streetlight system into a modern, cutting-edge network. I love a passionate advocate for lighting. This is about far more than changing light bulbs. This is an ambitious undertaking to convert 100% of our existing streetlights, approximately 59,000 in total, to LED technology and connect them to a secure, smart network with remote capabilities. This will not only dramatically enhance light quality and visibility for all, but it will also reduce outages, deliver up to 60% energy savings, and lower maintenance costs for the division of power by 25%. An innovative partnership will allow this project to roll out in just a few years. As staff knows, I want it done before the end of my current term, so we're going to keep the pressure up. This would have taken decades in the past. Together, we're creating safer, more resilient neighborhoods all throughout Columbus. But we also must remain focused on continuous improvement. I want Columbus to be the safest big city in America. I will not rest or waver until we are. Other technology improvements, like the implementation of systems that translate text to 911 in multiple languages and provide the ability to send live videos to 911 operators, will make emergency response more accessible and efficient. In Columbus, our first responders are here for you. No matter what neighborhood you're in, no matter what language you speak, no matter where you're from. These advancements ensure that all of our residents can access vital services and life-saving assistance. This makes every single one of us safer. Unfortunately, neighbors, domestic violence is one area where we're seeing numbers move in the wrong direction. Especially since the pandemic, there's been a stark and sudden rise in domestic violence all over the world. In the first quarter of this year, there were 12 homicides in our city. 5 of them were connected to domestic violence. Make no mistake, this is a community issue. It will take all of us working together to address domestic violence in a meaningful way. It cannot be solved by law enforcement alone. Police have a job to do, without a doubt. But by the time they respond to a call for domestic violence, it means that we have failed in ours, which is doing everything within our power to prevent these tragedies from happening in the first place. We are actively coordinating and engaging with shelters, counselors, advocates, and every single member of this community to support survivors and prevent future tragedies from taking place. The Office of Violence Prevention is taking the lead on deploying new partnerships and resources with dedicated staff and programming to get the entire community involved. It is only through shared responsibility that we can create the lasting change we seek.
Very young, I was exposed to domestic violence. I had a father who was very abusive to my mother and me and my younger brother. The only emotion that I ever really saw was anger. And so for me, it became the only emotion that I knew how to express. And by 18, I had started having children. And I had told myself a long time ago that I would not be like my stepfather. But unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, that those patterns were already starting to take form. But I actually ended up becoming the monster that I hated growing up.
So we are witnessing an increase in domestic violence. Obviously, we want our city to be safe. We want to make sure that all of our residents are in an environment that they're thriving, and particularly when it comes to young people. When you're talking about children, a lot of those become either suspects or they become victims themselves.
So the mayor has charged the Office of Violence Prevention in really digging deep into this issue for 2025. And we've come up with a 3-pronged approach. That approach is research, as well as prevention and intervention. Now, we recognize that researching domestic violence and how it is affecting the residents of Columbus could take some time. And so we want to assure the city of Columbus that while we are undertaking that research to make sure that the work that we're doing is data-driven and evidence-based, at the same time, we are taking on those other 2 prongs.
During my last incarceration, I decided to make a change. I surrendered to my higher power. I surrendered to some suggestions and some help. I started to engage in programs that would help me kind of address those core behaviors. And so I began to form new habits of behavior and thinking, learning what healthy relationships really look like. Not only am I a survivor of domestic violence and a rehabilitated perpetrator of domestic violence, I'm also an advocate against domestic violence.
Over the past year and a half, we have granted Choices $1.5 million as a city of Columbus. We plan to continue that investment moving forward because we recognize the services that they provide and how they are the only sole provider of those services. But in addition, what we have done is hired a staff member whose sole job is to be a domestic violence liaison between the Office of Violence Prevention and our community. Now that means education, that means resource provision, and that also means that staff person is going out and making relationships with anybody who is a service provider in this field.
Domestic violence is not just about enforcement. It's not just a policing issue. It's a community issue. It's going to take everyone in the community, every organization, every city to be involved to be able to address these concerns, because we have to get to the root of the problem. Domestic violence isn't just about the actual act of violence itself, but you can go and look at underlying issues. Are we talking about substance abuse? Are we talking about socioeconomic issues? Are we talking about mental health? We have organizations that we work with. We have city entities that we're working with to ensure that people are being proactive and educating people about domestic violence on the front end, because the whole goal is to not have to do enforcement, but to prevent it in the first place.
If we can reduce instances of domestic violence, not only are we having an immediate effect for those involved at the moment, but we're having an effect for generations to come. And what we want is just residents to be able to feel comfortable having honest conversations and open conversations. Even if you're not a victim yourself, if you know somebody in your family or your household is struggling, provide them with the resources that we have available. Reach out to the Office of Violence Prevention so that we can get you connected with resources that you might not even know exist.
Our goal is to make sure that Columbus is one of the safest cities in America. And as long as we continue to collaborate and work together, we will always have an opportunity to make this a safer city. And that includes decreasing domestic violence.
There is hope, but you have to want to be able to make the change. I will tell that person that you are worth loving, that you do deserve a chance. Yes, I hurt someone, and I don't want to hurt or hurt anyone ever again. And that change is possible.
Thank you to everyone who is working to stem the tide of domestic violence and keep our city and our residents safe. Next month, the city's Office of Violence Prevention will be releasing a new plan, not only to take on domestic violence, but to partner with our community to identify new ways we can engage those at greatest risk of committing violence and intervene to keep our neighborhoods safe. We look forward to sharing the full plan with you in the coming weeks. This work isn't solely about preventing violence or securing our streets. It's about building a community where everyone is able to reach their full potential. That's why I'm so optimistic about the new Franklin County Mental Health and Addiction Crisis Center, which is slated to open next month in Franklinton. This state-of-the-art facility will offer 24/7 walk-in services, inpatient care, and observation for individuals facing mental health or addiction crisis. With a capacity to serve 34,000 people every year, it will provide a crucial alternative to jail or emergency rooms, transforming our community's response to behavioral health and improving the lives of some of our most vulnerable neighbors. This new facility is a natural extension of the city's successful Right Response Unit, which embeds social workers and mental health professionals in our 911 dispatch center to connect callers with the right resources in a timely fashion, particularly those grappling with addiction and mental health challenges. This program has freed up our officers to fight and prevent violent crime in our neighborhoods to the tune of 1,800 hours in 2024 alone. And plans are underway to further expand its capacity to better address the rising volume of mental health calls that our dispatchers are receiving. Yet another way we're addressing the diverse needs of a growing city. At the same time, we must also mobilize as a city to remedy the extreme financial burdens borne by so many of our neighbors coming back from the pandemic, who are struggling to make ends meet. The city's Economic Mobility Accelerator Program, which we launched late last year, is doing just that. The program provides participants with stipends of $500 cash each month for 2 years to be used at their discretion while completing job training to advance their careers. This empowers individuals and families with short-term assistance to achieve long-term stability. Strong families make up strong neighborhoods, and strong neighborhoods are what make great cities. That's why we are also scaling our ambitions and aspirations to the neighborhood level to achieve systemic change. Two notable examples are Linden and the Hilltop, where we've already seen more than $635 million in public and private sector investments as a direct result of the community-driven plans that we partnered with our neighbors to create. One Linden and Envision Hilltop continue to be our guiding lights for investment, and it's really galvanized the entire community because every family in every neighborhood has to share in our success. Our newest area of focus is Eastland, where we just launched a similar plan of action that will lift up everyone who's been so essential to the growth of that neighborhood. And thanks to commitments and partnership by First Church of God, Mid-Ohio Food Collective, Directions for Youth and Families Foundation, Columbus State, and others, we've already seen more than $124 million flow into the Eastland community. And we're just getting started. The bottom line is this: we want folks who were born and raised in Columbus to benefit just as much from our city's growth as our neighbors who will join us over the next 30 years. These plans help us to bridge the past, present, and future while surveying the horizon to maximize the opportunities that still lie ahead. It is in this spirit that we're continuing to invest in our future leaders. The city is proud to be partnering with Fort Hayes, our gracious host this evening, to connect high school students with city staff in building and zoning services to provide on-the-job training and prepare them for possible careers as future city inspectors. One of those students, Gus Hooley, participated in this program back in 2023 and has since gone on to become the first ever electrical trainee employed by BZS right out of vocational school. I think Gus is here tonight. Gus, would you please stand so we can recognize you? We're proud of you and excited about your future. We're so excited to see Gus continue to do great things in his life and in his career. And I'm happy to report that he is the first but not the last. We've recently offered a trainee position to a second student here at Fort Hayes who will begin working with BZS after graduation. Our children are our treasure. Everything we do today is for them and their future. They deserve a city that nurtures their potential and cheers them on as they find their footing and reach for the stars. We will always be there for them. That's a promise. And when they envision what tomorrow holds, I want their imaginations to run wild with possibility and to see a city that reflects their highest aspirations. A city where anything is possible. That is why tonight, the city of Columbus, along with my wife Shannon and I, are teaming up with the Greater Columbus Sports Commission to declare our aspiration for Columbus to emerge as the nation's capital for women's sports. We're already making great headway. Last year, Columbus became the home to the Columbus Fury, one of our 8 teams in the Pro Volleyball Federation. And in 2 years, Columbus will host the Division I NCAA Women's Volleyball Finals and the Women's Final Four Basketball Semifinal and Championship game for the 2nd time in a decade. But this isn't just about athletics. This is about creating a pipeline for women to serve as the future business and civic leaders of this city. And the connection couldn't be clearer. 94% of women in C-suite roles in the private sector have played sports in their lifetimes. And among those who've competed in athletics, 85% say the lessons they learned on the field or on the court, discipline, teamwork, resilience, have been instrumental to their success. It's why we must keep investing in our young people, especially our girls, because when we give them access to these kinds of opportunities and experiences early on, they ultimately carry those lessons with them for a lifetime. Let's take a closer look.
I'm Andrew Ginther. I am First Lady of the City of Columbus, fiercely committed to women and girls in our community and really seeing an opportunity for women's sports here in Central Ohio. There's growing excitement and activity in Columbus that really made the mayor and I think about women's sports and what it can mean for this city.
One of my first experiences with Columbus in college athletics was the Women's Final Four back in 2018. And we were doing a basketball search, and we came here and interviewed coaches. And I was like, wow, this downtown's really cool. When I go around nationally, people trust us to host these events. They know that we have a track record. You know, Linda Logan and her team at the Columbus Sports Commission, they have an unbelievable reputation. We're partners with them when we host these large-scale events, so we know how to do it.
I believe like how big Columbus is and how much it's growing. It's like lots of events being hosted, so everybody's always coming to see different things in Columbus and what Columbus is about.
In 2024, Columbus hosted 97 sporting events and generated $182 million in direct visitor spending. So beyond the dollars and cents, I'm even more excited about the opportunity we have to cultivate new leaders.
Sports have taught me so many things, and they're truly the foundation of who I am. Things like discipline, resilience, being able to navigate ambiguity and uncertainty, and just dealing with change too. Sports have taught me how to lead, but also importantly, how to follow.
In a game, you can be told like, this is what you have to do, this is what the play is, but you never truly know what's gonna happen until you're actually playing, what can change, what happens, and you have to be a quick thinker of like, if you wanna win, how you're going to win.
That's really situational leadership. You think you have a plan, and then something happens. We tell our athletes all the time, our job is to allow you to reach your full potential. So athletics is the vehicle to that.
I would love to see the athletes who are born and raised here or come here and play at Ohio State or any of the other colleges and universities in Central Ohio. I would love to see them stay here and just continue to strengthen the industries that exist in Columbus.
Research shows that by age 14, which is my daughter's age currently, girls are twice as likely as boys to drop out of athletics. And we want them to stay committed to keep that leadership development and team collaboration going.
When young girls can see themselves in sports and in athletics and in leadership positions, that makes them believe that they can too do that one day and continue to do that and break barriers and not be scared to keep playing.
The final aspect of this opportunity is we have to drive innovation in women's sports and investment in sports-related businesses right here in Central Ohio.
I truly believe that innovation comes from intentional investment, and when you're focused on bringing all of this attention and investment into women's sports, like, it's going to grow. You already see it happening right now.
So when you think about the power of Columbus, think about the industries that are moving here. You think about the evolution of technology. You think about Ohio State being a leader in all those different facets, research, innovation, athletics. We can be at the forefront of this.
The ability for sport to take you places that you've never been is remarkable. I traveled the world because I knew how to kick a soccer ball, okay, which is, crazy to think about.
If you're an athlete, you have opportunity that is just a difference maker. And it goes back to those lessons that Markayla was talking about, right? And in the moment, what did I learn? Well, that can apply 5 years later, 10 years later, 25 years later. I think connecting those two to our business community is something that, again, is a great opportunity for all of us to really dive into.
So what does this mean? Emerging as the nation's capital for women's sports. I believe we need to host more high-level championships at all levels here in the city of Columbus. We need to double the number of girls competing in sports in this community. We need to lift up and celebrate incredible leaders like Markayla, who's here tonight, and Cassie, are incredible ambassadors for this initiative. I want us to create the best internships and mentorship programs in America for college athletes in this community. We want to attract the best and the brightest women to come compete here in Central Ohio, to then lead our companies, our universities, our city government into the future. And I don't know about you, but I think it's about time that the city of Columbus joins the rank of the WNBA and the NWSL. That's how we become America's capital of women's sports, and how we change the future trajectory of this community. Becoming the safest big city in America, banding together to build hundreds of thousands of homes, making the biggest investment in housing in the history of this city, ensuring that every resident prospers as our community grows, remaining a welcoming, inclusive, and open city, even when others would like to see us pitted against each other. This is the work we are called to do. This is the work that lies ahead. As always, this work will require a collective community lift. Despite the challenges before us, I remain firm in my belief that Columbus can be a beacon of light for others, especially during dark times of uncertainty, chaos, and adversity. We are the shining city on the hill that folks around this country and world look to. We have a proven track record of doing big things as a community, and we will do them again. We know what needs to be done. We will innovate without fear or restraint. We will collaborate without limit, and we will pursue meaningful action with poise, optimism, confidence, and purpose. The future of our city is one of shared prosperity and opportunity, where broad and equitable growth fuels individual success, where every resident can see themselves reflected in our great city's ascent. There's something all of us can get behind, no matter our ideological or political persuasions. At a time when we're being told by petty and partisan forces in Washington that our divisions are greater than our bonds and boldest ambitions, let us defy the critics and the naysayers and show another path, another way, and demonstrate the power of forming and sustaining a united front. In Columbus, we not only reach out to our fellow neighbors to lift them up and band together in a common cause, but we reach out to our neighboring cities and communities as well. A proper reflection of the size and scale of the challenges we face and our collective commitment to resolve them at a regional level. Rarely does this happen anywhere else in America. It's a powerful competitive advantage for our region, in addition to being the right thing to do. Together, neighbors, we will move forward with urgency, energy, and focus, act with intention, and stack hands to accomplish feats greater than any of us could ever hope to achieve alone. We will not only build a better city and a stronger region, but a better, safer, and more fulfilling life for every person, for every family who calls Columbus home. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the city of Columbus. God bless you all.